Well, Sam, here we are, round 2 in the books. A weekend where the Sydney Roosters had one of their most famous victories. A weekend where Luke Metcalf said to owners who traded him, "What are you doing?" A weekend where Reece Walsh scored single digits with his inning score looking like my bank account. And a weekend in Sydney where the weather today was 37 degrees. My electricity bill is through the roof because I've been pumping the aircon. And you know why it costs money? Because I don't believe in that woke shit solar panel stuff. How are you, Sam?
Mate, I'm good, Reece. I'm good, mate. What a weekend of footy. A couple of poo slingers in there, a couple of absolute crackers for the fans sitting at home. Bad week to be a fan of fullbacks. A lot of them went missing this weekend. In fact, rumours are they're still missing.
Maybe they can.
Mate, talk about forget player performance markets. Let's talk about the two other P's, right? Passengers and plotters, right? I've had enough this weekend, mate. I've seen way too many blokes fraudulently collecting a paycheck running around in the NRL this weekend, and I want to get to the bottom of it with you tonight about which ones do you keep in your team and which ones do you get out.
Not only just get out, but send them to the sun. Drive them to the airport in Western Sydney that hasn't even been built yet. I'm happy to drop a few off tomorrow, and their bags can wait by the boot. But Sam, tonight, it ain't just the two of us, is it?
No, it's not, mate. We've got a very special friend of the stream here tonight with us.
From the top rope, from the Sunshine Coast, he goes by the name Dylan, goes by the name Jugas, but tonight he goes by SC7.
Boys, glad to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you, fellas. How are we?
Good, mate. How are you going?
Mate, I'm doing all right. Pretty new to this whole SuperCoach gig, unlike you veterans. And boys, I don't know how you put yourself through this every goddamn week.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got shingles coming on potentially. I've been itching all weekend. And that was before the kickoff actually started on Thursday night. Since then, it's just got worse, boys. So, yeah, doing well. But, mate, I didn't realize how complex this game was until I've started playing this year. There's a lot to take in.
Well, the good news is if you finish in the top 1,000, you're basically a neuroscientist because you've got it all figured out. And just on the subject of medicine, if you are feeling a bit like you got the shingles, Jugas, I feel the same. I'm sure Soccer feels the same. Boys, all we have to do right now is reach to our left and pick up our Chinese flutes. Okay? Do this with me. And anyone else is tuning in?
It's going to tuning in this weekend, mate, bloody hell. Especially during the poo slingers today. It was in overdrive, unfortunately.
Hey, nothing goes better than it with a poo slinger than battery acid. Take it here. Speaking of poo slingers, I'll avoid talking about my team for a while. Let's feed over to the SOC and SC7, who've had pretty good round twos. Obviously it all went to shit by the time Para rocked up today. But let's start positive. Socko, talk us through the good from Socko's Snickers this week, please, mate. Who did you like and why?
Oh, mate, look, up high there for me. Like much better week than week one. I'll start there. I've gone 13-17. Who did I like, mate? We loved Connor Watson with a 109. We absolutely loved watching Dill Lucas go for 97. And I think for me, mainly seeing Samuel Field Street, also known as Samuel Stone Street, going for 112 yesterday was, probably one of the horniest sights I've had in recent memory.
Yeah, and he left a few out there as well, old Field Street, didn't he? A couple of those long gallops, David Gallops, obviously. That cow's left edge was at 6s and 7s. Yeah, still a great knock. You'll take a quiet ton on a Saturday arvo. Jugas, how about yourself, mate? What did you love out of your side?
Mate, some similar ones there. Dill Lucas, pretty big on him even before the season started. He's obviously got that jewel. And on that night side, mate, Greg, as I call him, Greg third leg Marzu, mate, because he was barring me up the entire game. But Yeah, him from the back fence, mate. They go down that left side. Lucas plays 80, I believe. He played 80 round 2 and round 1.
Oh, yeah.
Metcalf Truthers, huge week for us. We heard all the boys. We heard the haters. Trade him out, Munster, this, that. Repaid in full. Cheeky update to a 117, I believe. And then being yeah, I did like that little celebration at the end.
How cold was that, dude? That was at the SuperCoach community.
Being a diehard Bunnies fan, mate, get your pistols out for Pete. 96, 95 are the best you've ever seen. 80 minutes. Yeah, the Greek freak. Forget Giannis, mate. It's all about Mamazoulos. So that's some of the highlights from it for me, mate. And a Connor Watson Tonne to throw that in the mix.
What do you boys reckon the chances are that Greek Pete's also wearing the same wife beater that Jugas has got on tonight? You know, he's probably getting around his little Greek quarters. You know, his nonna's feeding him some good Greek food. You know, names of which escape me right now, given I'm white and uncultured. But yeah,
this is actually inspiration from Mamazoulos IG, mate. So pretty similar blokes.
Do you have the slippers to match?
Not yet, mate. If he scores another ton, I'll be buying more than that. I'll be eating koftas all night, mate. That could be Lebanese, but we'll pretend that's Greek anyway.
Look into it. I think it's seafood, actually. But tell you what, that Mamazelis thing, boys, we're all on him, right?
Yeah.
You know, maybe we're all on as well, but that's a separate podcast. That looks fairly sustainable in terms of his 80-minute. I mean, they had obviously the hump. Why did Manly let him go? Why did Manly let him go at 7? Bud Sullivan on the bench. Looks like that's going to be the kind of way that they line up. Just on the Greek stuff, Gyros, Brendan McLister saves us from from agony there. Thank you, sir.
We've missed an absolute layup there, boys, unfortunately, but we'll do better.
Yeah, that Humphrey. I'm sorry, that Mamazella stuff looks pretty sustainable. It looks like it was a hot day down on the Gong, wasn't it? But he was still going pretty hard towards the end there in the 80th minute. Really good signs. What do you reckon, Sock?
Mate, yeah. Look, I think he was better for that week 1 run, right? You know, I think he looked a lot sharper this week, and I think especially with like Lewis Dodd having gone down in reserve grade, like that just solves that Humphreys headache, right? You know, he probably starts getting some more minutes out at night.
Do you reckon he was actually injured, or it's just, you know, hey,
it's convenient, isn't it? You see this happen all the time. It's hard to say.
It's not I'm not good enough to make first grade, guys. It's that I choose not to play, all right? It's that I choose not to play. I don't know, mate. Look, having Loco and Latu Fainu run over me all day, in a New South Wales Cup game. I'm from the north of England, and it's 37 degrees, 35 degrees, whatever it was down in the Gong yesterday. Probably enough to make me go for an early shower too.
Well, speaking of early showers, I've had one of the great showers this weekend, boys. Finishing with 11.62 myself. I have no more to play, by the way. That wasn't my score going into today. Unlike 90% of the gibberers. Look, is it panic stations? Maybe. Round 2, do we blow it up? Do I even just delete the spreadsheet? Like, what's the point in even having it anymore? When you get Osaka doing 39, you get Tom Duffy, who for some reason was in my 17 this week. He did 22. Isaiah Voldemort Yongi, 21. Thanks for coming. AJ Brimson drops one over the line for 36. Thanks for coming. Jermaine Hopgood, why even bother, mate? 46 in the heat. May did 90. That's not an excuse. Really good stuff. Jugas, you do look familiar, though, as Cameron Wynn chimes in and says, are you the guy from Go Go Stop?
Hello, Cameron Wynn. Yeah, I actually am, mate. Not many people still remember that, so you're obviously quite a weird fella. Also from Tipping Point coming to your screen this year, Cam. So keep a look out, mate, and we'll have to let you know the dates.
Hey! This isn't an opportunity to self-promote, mate. This is about SuperCoach. It's about SuperCoach Late Mail, and if you're already subscribing, subscribe, but don't do anything else outside of the ordinary.
Also, just on that note, Cam Wynn, if you are joining us, being a diehard Eels fan, mate, a penny for your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear, personally.
Let us feel it, mate. Let us feel it. And, don't say what you said on the Facebook Parramatta page, which is I'm going to cancel my membership. Yeah, really tough week for us here at Tanny's Late Mail, but as we say, as we said a few times, guys, like, it's early days. Sure, the bloke who's coming first is about 1,000 points ahead of me at the moment, but plenty of time to claw it back, obviously. It was ranked in about 80,000th last year after round 2, and probably going to be a lot worse than that. So the only way is up. Speaking of being up, lads, our top scorer in the Gibbers chat this week, Hazzle Dazzle. 1469.
14 or 13?
1469, mate.
Hazzle Dazzle, give it up for him, boys.
Let's go, Haz. And as is our tradition on this Sunday night show, we will unexpectedly call the bloke who won and just see if they answer. And if they don't answer, well, mate, you have an opportunity to give us a victory speech via text message after copying some abuse from the Gibberers. So let's get him on the line. Harry Watts, this could be anything. Unavailable, and I don't blame him to be unavailable. The bloke is probably, having a bit of a moment to himself, looking at his team.
Well, I can tell you one thing: that bloke definitely did not have Reece Walsh in his team this week. That is for sure. That 1467 reeks of a Kalen Ponga vice captain, Luke, and power to him. Absolute power to you, Haz. That's an unreal score, mate. And, look, if you've got any advice for Tandy's late mail over here, I'm sure he'd be happy to hear it in the Gibberers chat in the form of
please. Please call back, Harry. Please call back and need some answers, mate.
Yeah, the Gibberers quite the Gibberers chat's usually pretty quiet, boys. So a few more messages in there, Not get for again. So yeah.
And don't let Reece sleep at night. It's a very simple game plan. Keep the phone ringing.
Hey, listen, I got a pocket full of cards. I'm not afraid to use them, boys. Let's get into the game, shall we? I guess we can throw it back to yesterday. A game between the St George Illawarra Dragons and the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Socko being a Saints fan, Jugas being a Rabbitohs fan. I guess, as the Rabbits won, Jugas, you get the right of telling us how you felt about the game before Socko does, because he's a loser.
Yeah, well, first of all, Socko, you can keep the charity shield warm, mate. We'll just pocket the 2 points. And aside from that, I've been waiting to give you some of these ones all weekend.
Here
comes
the money.
Yeah, a lot of Shane McMahon and Tuapolatu. Unfortunately, not quite successful. They didn't get scored a point after that, so that was beautiful. The game itself, I thought we were completely done. To come back and win that one's pretty gutsy. Some highlights from that one. I know we've touched on Mamazoulos. I know you were saying before, Reece, as well, about that position being sustainable. You've got Bud Sullivan on the bench, who I think will come in as a bit of a utility and pick up minutes here and there. And then you've got Havili, which all long-suffering South fans don't want hooking, even though they've tried it for time and time again. So I think that's very sustainable. Yep. Humphrey putting up 67. Very good. That's a good highlight for the game. One that was thrown around a lot during the earlier I found quite interesting was Campbell Graham. I know he was one of people's radar for SuperCoach. If there's one player where your score just does not translate to how good and consistently you are playing, he's one. And then aside from the Dragons, boys, obviously Tuapolatu, he's going to be a cash cow. I think he got downgraded just sub of 100.
Yeah, 99.
99. And then Gutho, I've heard, obviously Sock been talking about that in the group chat for the last 24 hours. He just seems at the moment, for his SuperCoach prospects, no matter what they do, he always seems to be delivering that final pass. So I don't know. The good news is with him, we've got another week to pick up because of their bye. So nothing needs to be done immediately. But that's pretty much my takeaways. What are your thoughts, Sock?
Mate, yeah, look, probably much the same with the Bunnies. Like, it was an absolute gritty win. Had to go for a quick walk after the end of that game for fear of needing a new TV. It took me a couple of minutes to get right with that. But mate, yeah, cracking game. Mamo, who we obviously touched on, like Humphreys, just man, what a player! Like second game in, just cool head, ball bounces on the ground twice to him, and he just looks up and goes, 4 minutes left. Let me slot this field goal. Like. It was, look, there probably wasn't enough pressure on him from the Dragons side, right? But, there's plenty of more experienced halfback, so you can't ice that moment, and he just drilled it. Like that was something that was incredible to watch live, even as a Dragons fan, right? So, lot of upside there. The other thing that I think probably worth mentioning, Hubner now out for 2 weeks for South, at a minimum, potentially 3, charged by the match review committee. And then, look, throwing back to the Dragons, some really interesting stuff out of that camp. I think you had Toby Couchman yesterday with 170 meters off 17 runs, 2 tackle breaks, and 45 tackles with 1 miss. He's becoming more and more of a workhorse every game. And the other one that I sort of thought was interesting was Hamish Stewart in again, getting long minutes. That could be a really good cash cow for the people out there at 198K if you don't already own him. Reece,
well said, boys. Well said. There's quite a few takeaways out of this game, right? I'd like to start with Humphries. Kind of echo what you both said. I mean, that's just such big dick energy for him to kick that field goal in his first grade game. Never looked like missing. Get it on the old left boot there, send it into the to the Tasman Sea. That was unreal. Campbell Graham, he probably contained. It doesn't really represent itself on the score sheet with his 32 there, but classic, like really good NRL game from him. He got in the face of Val quite a lot and neutralised Val. He only pumped out a 40. And then Gutho. I mean, at Parramatta,
6.
His nickname was Tracker, boys. Tracker, Tracker, because of his dominance in the GPS tracking department. He got around the field and the training field so much. He was injured towards the back end of last year, and I think a lot of us wrote him off, being old on old wood pegs there. But as we've mused, Sock, he came down to Wollongong before Christmas, was running up hills, was barking at people, and he's looking fitter than ever. He's on both sides of the ruck. He's absolutely everywhere. It'd be fascinating to see his. He may have run more kilometres than you today, Jugas, up on the old Sunshine Coast there, mate.
Mate, just having a look back through his last 6 games last year, 120, 107, 70, 72, 85, 70. And that's in a somewhat of a struggling team. So you put him in a team that's got a bit of strike power, and everyone forgot about Gutho effectively, right?
And that's the thing. There is strike at Saints. I mean, they're 0-2, but we've seen them do really well on both edges there. With the old Shane McMahon money man out on the left, and then one of Voice's favourites, Tyrell Sloan on the right. But Gutho is just going to be that sweep guy running off Mr. I'm him, and then also who's the other half? Can't remember now.
Ilias. I think for me, watching the Dragons this year, right? In years gone by, part of the problem was we weren't able to score points. It doesn't look like points are going to be the issue, or scoring them are going to be the issue, right? If you go back last year, it was a Hunt bomb to Lomax and Hope, right?
Yeah.
We've got depth. I remember Reece, you asked me for my thoughts after that Bulldogs game, and I said, look, man, there's promising signs there for the Dragons because we could actually score points. Years gone by, we wouldn't have got more than 6 points in that game. And I think Gutho is that difference. Gutho provides that point of difference there where he gives us shape. He gets it organised. He's out the back. He's swinging in. He's, absolutely seeding a cutout to the winger, or he's dropping the centre under. And it's just, I actually think he's going to do better with a couple of inexperienced, less say dominant halves, where he just becomes that linchpin in the attack, right? I see if Dragons score 18, he's probably got it in the game. He's probably got an involvement in all 3.
Yeah, so he's 675K coming. Well, he still is, and he will be for the next 2 weeks. They have a bye next week. His break even coming into this South game was 25. His break even going into the Melbourne game will be lower than our bank account balance, Sock, after this weekend of punting. That's for sure.
The one fullback you can rely on, Clint Gutherson.
Kenny, I hope you're not tuning in, champion. But yeah, that's his break even is going to be SFA. He just has to step on the paddock against Melbourne, which is a game that's actually at Cogra, and he's going to be 800 of the best pretty quickly. He might even be a Millie Boyle, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, boys. So I think there's got to be a thought of like getting him in at some point, whether that's kind of a downgrade from Walsh or you kind of move some stuff around with Turbo. I mean, geez, the Turbo thing is probably a podcast in itself, right? But Gutho and Tuipulotu, Arthurs, and who were the other guys again? Saab and Tamale. These are all dudes who are going to jump pretty quickly. And if you're struggling a little bit like old Tandy's late mail, that may be the Trojan horse you need to rebuild your season after 2 weeks.
100%.
They're just hunting these blokes who are unders at the moment that are going to go through the roof. So, yeah, I'd say, guys, like if you're in that kind of position, just keep an eye out for these break evens and work out how to get them in by that round 4 when they play Melbourne. Any other thoughts on that game, boys? Anyone else who stood out to you? I think we only all really had Mamo, right? Sean Kepi? No one Sean Kepi?
Yeah.
Did you?
I don't think there'd be many Sean Kepi owners out there. He was terrific. Really good point. What I liked, what you said, Stocko, about Gutho just now being the linchpin in that attack. I haven't really thought that through. You've got Ilias and Flanagan, both struggled at previous clubs. This will be Gutho's opportunity by far to come in and really dominate. So, like, I don't really think these scores are going to be a flash in the pan the more I think about it. It may not be 146s every week, but his ceiling is higher this year than what it would have ever been before. So if there's ever been a time to jump on,
Yeah. Like, for sure. Whoa. No, look, I agree. I mean, I feel like South this year, it's a bit hard to see where there's value past probably like Mamo and Hump, right? Like it doesn't feel like there's too much value there. As we kind of touched on in the Saints team, look, there is some value around maybe some of the youngsters as they come through. Hamish Stewart is probably the one where it's a wait and see if named in week 4 or for round 4. And if he is, look, you can trade out a Loco or a front rower that isn't making money and get him in and get that price rise there, make a bit of cash, guys. So if you got the trade there to do that, better to have something in the bank than not.
Yeah, in real life and in SuperCoach. A couple other ones who worth keeping an eye on in terms of their price drops will be Val Holmes. I think it was a 60 last week, 40 this week. He's going to drop plenty. Keon Clementinga with a 33. That'll bring his price down. Talis Duncan, injury affected, 19. He'll come down, but he's out for a month. And then Jacob Little, one of mine and Socko's personal favourites. I believe he got the best part of 30 minutes on the
20,
weekend.
20 for 20.
For 20. Yeah, but listen, guys, like if something happens to Cookie, if that rotation changes, let's have a few more 20s out of Little, I reckon, because he averaged close to 80 last year, like when he was the 80-minute hooker. So as important as it is to keep an eye on these dudes who got massive BEs, also keep in the back of your mind the ones that are dropping cash. Speaking of dropping cash, any Cowboys fans that had money on their own team to win a game this season, they got absolutely pumped by the Sharks. It was 36-12. Probably could have been 50-12. I feel the Sharks left a lot of points out there. That left side defense of the Cowboys, with Dearden, you got O'Donnell in his first game. You then had Purdue, and then you had Tuolangi. He's flying in. The other guys are kind of distorted. I think most of the tries, if not all of them, apart from Iro scoring a double, came down that left side. All your general thoughts on that game, boys? Anyone, Voice, you're on Stone Street. How about you take it away? Tell us how you're feeling, mate.
Mate, well, look, the faith was rewarded, right? I had Stone Street in round 1. Watched him go for 40 against Penrith. Watched Jesse Ramian, forget there's a bloke playing outside of him all evening. Mate, I had my doubts. I've been talking about it with you, Reese. Do I look at Marju? It's a straight swap, going into round 3. Marju's been posting some pretty tasty scores, and he's got Bradman Best, who's also forgotten about his next door neighbour. So, I'm sort of sitting there going, what do I do? And I was like, look, just take your foot off the gas. Take a step back. Let's see what happens this weekend. Stone Street's absolutely come out and brained it. He's gone within a bee's dick of another 2 tries. It could have easily been a 150 weekend for Sam Stone Street. probably, the only negative you could really take away from his game there was, just getting caught a couple of times just short of the line. But, mate, look, I think on the Cowboys front for me, what's concerning is, look, obviously SuperCoach, as we kind of touched on with Campbell Graham before, doesn't necessarily translate to what happens in the game. But for the highest scoring Cowboy to be 65 with Scott Drinkwater, and then not another player, and it, even close to that, you've got John Bateman next to 51. Mate, they have some real problems. I would not be holding any Cowboys. I think what you said, Reese, about Taulagi is spot on. He seemed to have really formed a nice partnership over the years with Val, and he's missing him sorely on the inside there. Mate, big red alert if you're a Cowboys fan or if you've got Cowboys players in the side. I wouldn't be going anywhere near them. I don't think there's any attacking upside. It's just going to be missed tackles galore for them at this juncture in the season. The Cronulla side, mate, look, Nico back goal kicking was great to watch. He was sort of stroking them apart from that first one. And then I suppose as well, seeing guys like Nikora, I should say, get over the stripe. Just pop his head up and remind you that he's a 2RF option. He's goddamn reliable, SuperCoach points. He does a job, and he's going to be there to be picked later this year. And interestingly, I brought in Braden Trindle for KO Weeks this week, and I felt quietly vindicated. Again, Cronulla left points on the table. He's still walked away with 52. Really solid Origin 1 and 2 cover. They've got a really good run, bit of a pillow draw. A lot to like out of the Sharks. AFB a bit quiet, but you can't always do it. On you, Keithy. Love to see that, mate. You think like me and Reese do, mate. Nikora is going to be our first pick. I reckon maybe round 8, round 9. I reckon Reese and me both have him there. He plays the first 2 Origins. Just absolute must at some point this year.
Hey, listen, Keith loves Nikora, and we love Keith. Keep him coming, baby. Dugas, how'd you feel about the game, mate?
Yeah, it was a tale of two stories, wasn't it? On one hand, you got the Cowboys. I've got 2 Cowboys players. Get ready to learn Chinese because they're getting the next flight out. Similar to what Socko said, going through that list, I find it hard to literally see merit in any Cowboys player at the moment, maybe outside of Drink. And even him, I think it was round 1, he salvaged, 50-odd points in the final 5 minutes. This game, he salvaged some more points in the final 5 minutes. Without those, he's probably on a 30 and a 30. So I can't really see any Cowboys players. And on the other side, you got the Sharks. Now, they scored 36 points. I think they could have easily scored maybe 60, 70 points had they been converting.
Fucking hell. If Trindle was kicking Socko, right?
Oh, mate. Mate. Don't get me started, all right?
The thing with the Cows and Sharks as well is I think this year it's going to be a lot more split than what we've seen in the past with Hines and Trindle. I think in the past, obviously, they've been very Hines dominant. So, look, with the amount of strike power they've got, I think if you go either or, you can't really go wrong. But, as we all mentioned the other day, 86, when Nico's in form and when the Sharks are clicking, you could see 5-6 of their players go over 80, 90 every week. Yes, it was against the Cowboys, but, I'd struggle to argue against anyone trying to bring in a Sharks player as a pod, aka Socko with Stone Street. So.
Yeah, the Nico 86, it looks a lot better than what it was in the 78th minute when he was on fucking 60.
Yeah, I'll take that one for definitely letting him. That was on me. Apologies there, boys, for anyone who's a owner and not a Nico owner. That was me.
Yeah, that was SC7's first real death ride of the season.
Yeah, and the last, hopefully.
He ignored death ride law by saying Nico's not going very well so far, is he? But look, he still did an 86. If you're a Nico owner, you're pretty happy with that. One guy who is probably a Nico owner is Big Daddy, who says it's a bad day to be his hog after scoring 60. Big Daddy is right. Emphasis on big. Well done, son. I guess just a couple of quick things there from the Sharks. Another guy that we all love, Socko, is Kale Ittle. He started last season as a 230 whatever guy, 208k I think it was. He was one of these dudes that I don't think didn't leave my side all of last year. He's just a reliable kind of 50 a week. Towards the back end of last year, he realised his upside with a few tries, a few TAs, and he started this season like an absolute house on fire with a 60 last week, including a try, 65 against Penrith, and then 111 with a double yesterday. If you got him in, you're one of about 18 other blokes, and you're absolutely cheering. He's such a good player, man. Happy to have him in a couple of draft sides. From the Sharks as well, Adam Fanua-Blake, 46. That's unders. I think his minutes are a bit weird in the old Townsville Heat. Again, another one, guys, to keep an eye on. He's going to be the third or fourth best averaging front rower for the season. But to echo what both of you said about the Cows, I mean, geez, what do you do? Like we're all owners of Tom Duffy. I believe the two of you are owners of Jackson Purdue.
No, mate, he got the axe. He got the axe to one young hot tamale who we'll touch on shortly. But that was probably one of my best decisions.
You had a look under the hood in round one and thought, that's enough for me. You gave him the old what's that Storm Kai's name from last year?
What the Scott Chan?
Joe Chan. Yeah, he gave him the Joe Chan treatment. Yeah, so Jugas, you own both Duffy and Purdue. What are your thoughts, mate? I mean, is that panic?
Look,
not panic stations, but have you got a plan to get rid of both of them?
Yeah, it was a tough one because obviously, first of all, with Purdue, I think I was in the boat with a lot of people last week watching Tamale and going, all right, you've got an Albert Hopewadi to come back, you've got a Savage suspension. So TLT come Tuesday is going to be very telling. From the optics of watching the Canberra Broncos game, I feel like Tamale had a much stronger game than Hopewadi. So pending TLT, I think I'm doing a straight Purdue out to Tamale. The only thing now is for a lot of people that are without a Tamale or a Jesse Arthurs, that's a coin flip now. Arthurs has basically put up double tons. Yes, Tamale is cheaper. Either way, Purdue's leaving. But as we get to in trades later, there's so many good options. Tom Duffy, man, I can't justify how you'd keep him. And again, that's not a straight. No, that is not kicking. Even in the chances they had, it's tough. It's his second game. They versed a rampant Manly at Brookie and then a Sharks who are premiership contenders again. Yeah. But even when he did have chances yesterday, mate, he looked rattled. With like slight upgrades for an extra 100, 150K in Humphrey and Katoa, you find the cash, don't you?
Absolutely. One guy who's a big Jamie Humphries fan is Cam Wynn, chiming in for the second time today. How are you, Dirt? Ended up with 12.45. Me gusta meme. Does anyone want to have a guess at what that looks like?
I wouldn't have a clue.
Wasn't that your face, Reese, after checking Keanu Kinney's meters in the last game?
Didn't even check him, mate.
Yeah. If anyone had money on Marcelo Montoya to get the most meters in Group 1, please reach out.
Moving on to the last game last night, one that was an ambush. I mean, an ambush in the betting stakes. I think Canberra were paying fours to win that. Classic Courier Mail propaganda machine, getting the old Broncos narrative high their own supply. Broncos never in that game. I think the scoreline flatters them. It was 32-22, but yeah, Canberra well on top. They're way too physical. They bashed the pillows that are in the Broncos pack, aside from Haas and Carrigan, that is. They're just a tough team, aren't they, lads? Like, you got Big Horse, you got Papali'i. Hosking was great through the middle. Hudson Young, who's up there with one of my favourite players in the league. Morgan Smithies is a big, thick, dumb, well, hopefully, that's actually disrespectful, but just a big, thick Englishman from the north. He loves the cold. He's just a tough bastard. You then got freaking Tommy Starling in the middle. He loves to get under people. And then Matty Nicholson on NRL debut looked every bit of first grader. What did you make of that performance from the Raiders, Voicey? And is there anyone that has tickled your fancy aside from, looking at Corey Horsburgh as a vice captaincy option next week?
Well, look, mate, interestingly enough, mate, I think you and me were both big on Matty Nicholson, right? Like, we saw that one trial with him and we're like, holy shit, like this guy's here and ready to go. I think the problem at Canberra is always going to be the minutes, like in that forward pack, like especially for someone like a Nicholson. And it's the same argument against a Starling, right? Like a Starling's gone for 103 this week. Like that is fucking unreal. But he'll also have a game where like Canberra go to sleep in the first 20, get absolutely beaten through the forward pack, and Owen Paddy's going to get 60 minutes there to prove his worth, right? And it's the same argument as to why you don't have Owen Paddy in your side, Mate, there's a lot to like about Canberra this year. Tamale appears to be a great pickup. Horse, if you don't have him, what are you doing? Are your eyes painted on? You probably should have gone to Specsavers. If he's not in your side,
not an ad.
I mean, definitely not an ad, but just a strong suggestion, perhaps. Mate, yeah, look, like I think there's so much upside there. I know there's a couple of gibberers who are flirting with the idea of Matt Tomoko in the preseason. Like him as a bit of a pod. He's gone for 80. Mate, it was just a good old-fashioned, like, we're going to drag this into the mud. You saw Canberra just give away those early penalties kind of thing and, like, bring the level of the contest down. The referee relented, and it was a classic Canberra game. They steamrolled them through the middle. Brisbane were going wide. Reece Walsh, tickets please. Mate, if you're going to be a passenger, and I think we've got Paddy in here, who's asking what happened with Reece Walsh. Did it all start with his name, being spelled incorrectly? There's a number of things going on there at Brisbane, one of which is how do you get Walsh involved? Because he would have had maybe 2 touches in that first 40 minutes. But Canberra, credit to him, ran over the top of them. Jugas, what were your thoughts, mate? What did you make of the Brisbane performance?
Mate, first of all, if Sticky doesn't die in the coach's seat, mate, they better keep him there till his last breath. Because I tell you what, that bloke loves a small country town. He really does. And I mean, I don't know what Sticker's got in the water there. First, it was their ground smelling funny this year. Now he's got something in the water. So there's all type of fucking weird shit going down in Canberra. But, mate, good to see the Milk doing well. Look, as far as the Broncos go as well, I'm not hitting the panic alarm. Madge is a great coach. I think he's going to have them going a lot better. Yes, this is a minor blip, but I think this loss could also look worse than what it really is for the Broncos. It's round 2. The game was down in Canberra. You've still got a Reece Walsh, a Ben Hunt, and Adam Reynolds. So, as far as SuperCoach goes, they're going to be relevant. They're going to be very relevant. Look at Jesse Arthurs. He scored 3 tries. As far as Ricky Roulette goes, mate, obviously we know he loves changing around that forward pack. First of all, a thought for Zach Hosking owners. I know Socko last week you left him on the bench. This week you probably played him. Seems that you have a curse with him, mate. So let's just trade him.
Can't win, mate. Socko can't win.
And then, mate, the one
zero-sum game.
Yeah, the one I really can't get my head around is you look at a Canberra team that's had 2 great performances, and has KO Weeks cracked 25 in either game?
33 round 1. 33 of the best in round 1. I know that because he was in my team and playing.
So any weak owners, man, that's a tough L. You look at those games and you'd be like, cool, the Wars preseason, everyone was pretty hot on. You've got the Broncos, and then you've had 2 smashing performances. You go and load your app up, and you've got a combined 54 points from 2 games. So you're moving on if you're on him before he goes down in cash. Aside from that, the Broncos, mate, one of my strangest takeaways, I remember a lot of people brought in Payne Haas this week. He was being touted as a must-have. I checked the game, I think about 25 minutes in. He was in about 17. He was finished on 99. So he's an abnormal. He's a freak. If he's in your side, you're laughing. Aside from that, look, Corey Pakes. I know some people have got him in that hooker roulette spot. Put up a respectful 39, but, I wouldn't be moving to that for any option. The other big takeaway is Goz. I think some people jumped a week early on the Goz train. I think now after a loss, Pia Kura probably slots back in. I don't see Goz as being relevant. If you have him in your side, look at it, kind of it is what it is. You might get 1 price rise out of it, but I wouldn't be bringing him in now. No way. What are your thoughts, Reece?
Yeah, Goz is absolutely a trap. Hopefully, those that do have him in don't also have Geimer. And they have a dual maybe in their 2 in their center wing, so they can flip him to Tamale if they don't already have him. My thoughts were, we can get into the Walsh thing in a second, lads, but Payne Haas, he's as close to a must-have as there ever is. I'll read you out these stats. So 35 tackles, 7 tackle breaks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 offloads. And then he made 19 runs, only 6 of which were over 8 meters, which shows you, 7 of which were only over 8 meters, which shows you the quality of the Canberra defense. But, where I can, offloads aside, tackle breaks aside, one thing really liking about Haas this year is I got him a bit wider of the ruck. He's running at the halves, and, Fogarty and Strange are pretty decent enough one-on-one defenders, at least with the blokes next to them in Hosking and Nicholson. So they held their gloves up last night. But, over the next month, I'll read this list out to you. The Broncos play the Cowboys. So you could imagine what Haas is going to do if he's running down that same edge that Nick Herrera and co had a bit of fun with on the weekend. Then plays the Dolphins, who were at 6s and 7s against Ponga the other night. Then they play the West Tigers, who admittedly are looking a lot better this year, but it's still the West Tigers. And then they play the Roosters. Now, all 4 of those games are at Suncorp. I believe 3 of them are Friday night at Suncorp, which is just classic, classic Channel 9 scheduling. So Payne Haas, I'll have a pretty serious look tomorrow at flipping Hopgood to him. Not really loving how Para are going. Hopgood's offload isn't there. He's getting swarmed. He's distributing a lot. Payne Haas is ready to go. 100 and then a 90. Doesn't even score a try yet. I mean, you gotta have a think about it. Reece Walsh, he did a 9, not great. Well, it's actually not too bad because he drops out most of our sides this week. Given the benefit of the flex, but he can have these games. I remember last year he had one against the Chooks where he was just overthinking. Getting rushed a lot, forcing passes, throwing him over the sideline. Did the same thing last night. You'll see a lot of people panic sell him, but that draw is still that draw. Again, just to read it out one more time, they play the Cows, the Finns, Wests, and the Roosters all at Suncorp. They haven't played a game at home this year. Walsh is worth keeping for that run. It's going to be tempting to flip him to, a Kinney or whoever else around that price point. But as we always say, it's worth giving these dudes probably another chance, which is contradictory because I've just said to get rid of Hopgood. But I think
that's a different scenario. That's a struggling team. The Broncos are still the Broncos, aren't they?
Good point, mate. Good point.
I think the interesting thing was, and look, to those of you that read the little notifications on your SuperCoach player cards, right? You're going to have a read. Walsh bounces back. When Walsh does a 9, he then comes back and does a 90-plus game the next week. And that's something that's historically been seen from him. I think you put that stat in the mix with what we've seen from the Cowboys. I don't know that a week is going to be long enough for the Cowboys to fix whatever issues there are. And so, I think Walsh is absolutely a must-have. In fact, I think he's a potential captaincy this week. Yeah, I'd go that far to say that, look, I'm having serious thoughts about, at the very least, the VC on him on Friday night.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Sock. Against that Cowboys team, we saw what the Sharks did to them at home on a bounce-back game under Madge. I think it's a great idea, personally.
Yeah, and as I said in the Gibbers chat a bit earlier, if he scores 11 and below against the Cows next week, I'll just shut the chat down. We can all speak somewhere else. That'll be enough. We'll have seen enough. One guy who is going to be making cash next week is Jesse Arthurs. He just continues to score tries, doesn't he? Running off Hunt down that left side, which probably speaks to your earlier point about Tamale there, Jugas. All 3 tries down the Hopper-Wade side. Maybe that helps old Tamale's case. His break even's gonna be -80. He's simply a must trade in next week. He's at 340k. So if you've got you're probably not trading Bullymore or White or anything like that, but definitely find a way to get him in. Probably get rid of a Dimitrik for him if you can.
Question for you boys. And I reckon there'll be a lot of other gibberers maybe with obviously we're coming up to that first week of price rises and price drops. If you're in a situation where for whatever reason, let's say you're without a Tamale and the Jesse Arthurs, who are you prioritizing to bring in and why?
Good question. Like probably, well, both is the answer, to be honest. But
boost.
yeah,
Use a boost.
Oh, I can't. Yeah. Trade anyone. Trade fucking Cleary if you have to. Just get these blokes in, right? Nah, listen, like Arthur's, Tamale, the other ones we mentioned before, Tuipulotu, Gutherson. These are dudes that are money for jam early, and we're looking to generate cash. You know, we've already had a few cheapies that have failed us, such as your Gozzers, such as your Duffies.
If our Megas, mate, his time will come.
Yeah, so I'm getting in Arthur's next week, come hell or high water. That's for sure. A couple of different comments from the chat here. A couple of curly ones here.
Sorry, just to answer you, Jugas. I think for me, like if you're looking at it,
sorry.
I think no, that's all right, Reese. I think for me personally, Arthur's is probably the better pick there. Like you're picking a winger based on their scoring potential, not just their base. Obviously, it's nice to have someone who's got a decent base, right? But Arthur's kind of benefits regardless of whether Walsh is in the game or out the game. Like if you watch that first half back through last night, Walsh was just sitting out on that side. Like he was just sitting out on that side behind the ruck. It was almost like it was like a play to use him as a decoy or something. You know, I thought it was just laziness at the time, but watching it back, it looked like they're kind of just using him to kind of have that decoy player sitting there while the defense is still keeping their eyes on the inside. I think for me, Arthur's is unlocked whether or not Walsh is playing to him because Hunt and Reynolds both have that ability to just absolutely let the ball mat sing on a cutout to the edge. And I think there's more scoring upside with the Brisbane Broncos this year than there is Canberra. Look, Canberra's obviously done fantastically well in their first two games, right? No one's knocking that. But I think if you're picking a CTW who's going to go straight to the penthouse quicker and you can only get one of them in, I'd be taking Arthur's personally.
Yeah, completely agree.
Soccer, you love a penthouse as well, don't you, mate?
As long as Paddy's in there, always.
As long as there's own Paddy in a microwave.
Yeah, I mean, just on that shape, Shibasaki only did 30-odd last night, but ran a couple of lovely decoys. You know, I know that doesn't really kind of present itself on the old SuperCoach stat sheet, but he's a big body. That drags blokes in, just leaves Arthur's plenty of space to cook it. I think if you go back and watch those tries, you know, you'll realize no one actually laid a hand on him. Keith is obviously loving Arthur's at the moment, and he's really loving Hunt feed Arthur's gold. We're loving you feeding us gold, mate. Big Daddy chimes in again. Just when I thought my hog couldn't take any more punishment, I'm treated to these three moustaches.
We've gone off a bit early for November, Big Daddy. We had to get a head start.
If the viewers wouldn't mind just commenting in the chat who has the best moustache, well, I guess we're going to find out. We'll let the people decide. Jugas, you are here $1.06. That's unbelievable.
Mate, I've kind of fucked mine up over the weekend as well. I went too short. I was looking a bit Adolf-ish, and I've tried to fix it up. So, yeah, that's probably pushed me out to Keanu Kineos. You know how that worked out for you, mate. So, yeah, we'll see.
Adam Boise chimes in. He says, Socko, Mum wants to know which email of yours is linked to the Netflix account. Is it your Paddy? Really good from Adam Boise there. Shout out to my Bondi brother. And then Cam Wynn, keeping in the family, he chimes in. He says, imagine DJ7 and Todd from Better Call Saul on the circuit.
Mate, you wouldn't have to imagine too much, Cam. I actually ran that circuit over Christmas last year, mate. So,
I love you, Keefy. Keefy, you are my man. I love you, Keefy. Love your work.
Cam, we actually have seen that in person, and Jugas have one of the highest usage rates in a living room you'll ever see. Just got to touch him with everyone.
Mate, if you had the C on me that night, you're winning every head-to-head match. I'll tell you that much. Bloody hell.
Boys, it's good stuff. So get Jethty Arthur in, I guess, is the point of that whole little
Yeah. Just to circle it all back around, Arthur's is probably the one we'd pick.
Another one just to keep an eye on. I'll get this one off the screen here. Is Matty Nicholson. Like, he scored a double last night. 26 tackles, 5 tackle breaks. It was basically 40 in base power in 60-odd minutes. I think you mentioned it, Sock. Hosking, broken hand. He'll be out for a month or so. Nicholson only played 60-odd minutes last night. That was on his debut. Dare say if, Simi Sasungi or someone goes onto that other edge. I don't know. We'll have to keep an eye on the rotation, obviously.
Smithies would just go back to 13, right? They just put Smithies in at 13 and then give Nicholson that edge. I'd imagine, if Hosco's out for a month, that just seems the logical play there. Hudson one edge, Matty the other.
Boys, the real beauty as well is Nicholson only played one game. We get another free look before, putting out other urgent fires, which couldn't come at a better time. And then, for your Hopgood owners and some other guys who are really struggling, you've got a straight swap cash gen there. So, blessed that he didn't play round one at the end of the day.
Yeah, you can get out of that mistake that was selecting Alex Seyfarth in round one and into a vehicle Matty Nicholson shaped, and that'll take you all the way to the promised land.
Mate, I'm still an Alex Seyfarth truther. Sorry to tell you, boys. 53 of the best today, pending 60 with updates. I'm riding safe, mate. He could be a keeper for the rest of the year. We'll wait and see.
Could be worse. Another guy who is a keeper, just to fawn over this stat, then we'll move on to that Para game, is not Jordan Ricky, who missed 8 tackles last night, Socko. It is Corey Horsburgh. Try assist, try contribution, 24 tackles, 3 offloads. 4 ineffective offloads, which is weird. And then he made a lot of runs. Just wanted to shout him out. How good is he? Fucking how good is the big red machine, man?
Mate, the horse, he'll play Origin this year. He's unbelievable. He's made of the right stuff. I don't know what stick he's done from him almost being out of the team in December last year to where he is now. So you got to love the horse, man. Everyone loves the horse.
Another guy who loves the horse is Dill Munro. He says, I'm a 30-year-old man, have just scored 1,100, and I still share a bunk bed with my brother. Who do I trade in this week, and why is it Kyle Flanagan? Stock, I'll let you take this one, mate.
Mate, Kyle, look, I think me and Reese can both admit we share a bond with a very special bond, in fact, with Kyle Flanagan. We both have I'm him tattoos in Kyle's honour. Mate, we absolutely love it. Over at Tandy's Late Mail and here with Soccer, we love Flano.
I think you're burying the lead with Kyle Flanagan. Dill, mate, he's 30 years old. He shares a bunk bed with his brother. I mean, what's doing?
Well, that makes 4 of us, Dill.
Hey, look, realistically, Dill, the biggest problem here is, are you on the top or the bottom bunk?
I thought that top and bottom chat was going somewhere else, Sock, so I'm glad I heard bunk in the end, mate. That's a good way to finish that story. My God.
Speaking of bottoms, Para weren't very good today, were they, boys?
I mean, where do you start?
I'm asking you, mate.
Well, yeah. I mean, I suppose they picked right back up, where they left off in the first half last week. They erased that second half against Melbourne where they came out and put something together. It was an absolute poo slinger for the probably first 30 minutes that game. I think they might have had every error under the sun. We had roll balls, we had forward passes, we had knock-ons from both sides. Where to for Para? I mean, I see Para being like the Cows, at least while Moses is out there. They're missing their Messiah. Same story again, high score, 65, Zach Lomax. I think probably the only value you'd look at is now they've got Lomax playing wing, coming out of their own end, right? Looks like they're getting him to drop back for that. That was the big change today that I saw. And look, correspondingly, his scores come up. I think
he was offloading quite a lot today as well.
Yeah. Look, he's getting those early touches, those early meters, being able to really work himself into the game, which is kind of the interesting point. Other than that, I mean, I'd be staying away. Dill Brown, 34, not great. Hopgood, 46, as you've alluded to, Reese, probably on the never again list, at least for the time being.
Well, he's just being driven to Bringelly Airport tomorrow. That's all that really matters, isn't it?
Straight to Kingswood Smith, hey? Look, mate, I mean, realistically, what do you say? That was a pretty awful game by them. And I think for me, the Tigers weren't great either, right? That's probably the more concerning part is there was plenty of opportunities that Para had. Look, I'm sure you've got a couple of tons out of the Tigers today. Lachlan Galvin, friend of the stream, one of Reese's favourite young up-and-comers. He's gone for 105. Taruva, 112. Buller, 105 as well. Terrell May. Why did the Roosters let him go? No one.
Why did we let him go? Why did we let him go?
Mate, 90, absolutely pumped it out. What, like a 60-minute stint to start, was it, Reese? Insane numbers from him today. And I think he was on like 44 by halftime, and like that's strictly base and obviously his offload.
Oh, mate, it was like 70 at halftime.
Or was it 70 at halftime? Maybe it was first 20 minutes. It was like 44.
It was
insane, mate. He was accumulating points like DJ7, accumulates numbers.
Right. Yeah, not really sure what that reference is, Socko, but I'll take the baton, mate. Boys, first of all, spare a thought, because I can promise you I'm not the only one here. Get into the Eels-Tigers game with a nice little trifecta of Dill Brown, Iongi, and Jermaine Hopgood.
Yeah, big three.
Welfare check on my Cats, mate. When Hopgood almost passed it to Dill Brown and he came short of the line, they spin it next play and Hopgood lost it, mate. I punted one of my Cats about 20 meters across the room. You would have rather been Joel Monahan's dog, mate. It was safer being him than that. So
kill the stream. Kill the stream.
Yeah, so where do we start on Eels plays, mate? They're horrible. Funny enough, I think Hopgood, yes, it is worrying signs. Dill Brown's more urgent to go. If you're a forward in a struggling team, you can still get through those stats. Hopgood probably made about 7 errors today. Do you know what I mean? He had a very abnormal bad game. Hopgood is a good rugby league player. So, I'm not hitting the panic stations on him yet. There's bigger fish to fry and there's more cash gen to make in the next few weeks. Dill Brown, though, man, with a Munster with one more week in cash gen there. Yeah. With Dill Brown 34, he saved his stats last week late in the game. He's got to go. I know all three of us are pretty high on the Skelton train. He looks really good and dangerous coming out. If they spin the attack the other way in the next couple of weeks, on top of his base, he could easily be putting up 80s or 90s. Any other takeaways? Probably, man, tough day for Luai owners. 21, I know he was a bit of I wouldn't say so much a pod play, but in that kind of 5'8" position where there were so many options at the start of the year, I knew a couple of people did like Luai. After that, 21, Galvin just always looked like the guy they're going to. I think that's the tough thing when it comes to SuperCoach and Luai is he'll pull the defense apart and kind of create the space, but Galvin seems to be the one on the finishing touches.
He's everywhere, isn't he? Galvin, he's an energizer bunny. He just pops up as like a little...
Hopefully Bondi in 27, mate, if you can do anything about it and Uncle Nick can get the sombrero back.
Mate, Galvin, Ponga, Haas. Yeah, stand by.
Yeah, that'd be very nice. But look, for the Eels, man, you've got Jason Donk Riles. How much big of a penis do you need at the helm to get a fucking performance? So,
clearly a bigger one.
Yeah. And again, can win a penny for your thoughts, mate. But, look, I don't think there's much more to say on that. If you've got any Eels players in your team, I'd be finding a way to get him out of there at this point in time. Those and the Cowboys, I just don't see how you can justify really keeping anyone who's not a cheapie.
Yeah, it's a great point you made, Voicey and Jugas. Like the Para situation looks very much like the Cowboys situation at the moment, where we've just read through a couple of scores. You get one or two blokes over 60 in both of those teams, especially those highly priced guys like your Dill Bags, your Hopgoods. Yes, they are class players. Yes, they will come good. But fucking hell, we're going to need to see a circuit breaker game from them to really give us the confidence to stick with them. Thought West weren't great today. Like they did what they needed to do by the end. It was a bit of a poo slinger for that first 20-odd minutes, but they did run away with it in the end. Really happy as an Adam Dewey owner. Really, first of all, happy that he had the kicking, first and foremost. He still looks a little bit unders, like when he's running it, doesn't he? Like, looks a little bit timid. Kind of like Jesus' cat after being kicked. But like he's running a bit freer today. You'll take a 67. That's great for him. Skelton scores another try, 63. He's I don't know, like
he left one on the table there, right? Like there was that held up try at the end there with Iongi. Like you're probably sitting there going like. He probably should have gone for about 90 today, right? Like,
and one thing I know about Skelton is a bit of a first world problem. But hey, we are in the first world, so 21 runs today, only 8 of them were over 8 meters. He does get swarmed a lot, doesn't he? Like I feel he kind of gets it flat-footed a lot. I don't know if that's just him or Wes generally, but he's not necessarily.
To him was it felt like the service to him was slow. Like they kind of were giving room service to Taruva when he'd come in for his carries. Like Skelton's carries sort of seemed to be that really like stuck in the mud kind of. Okay, we need 7 or 8 out of you. Like take it and get it flat-footed and slow from a slow play the ball. His upside will be when he gets a quick play the ball and good service, and he can just absolutely charge.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of like Brad Pitt and Troy. But 5 tackle breaks from him. I mean, in that vacuum of those 500K guys, at the start of the year, we looked at Isaac Tungo, we looked at Marju, we looked at Skelton. Obviously, Timoko is a factor as well at that same price, and then Campbell Graham. Marju looks like an absolute must-have for the rest of the year. He's offloading. He's doing 55, 60 in his sleep. Skelton, let's hope he gets a few more tries because that kicks going like he's 650K before we know it, guys. And I think that's probably going to be his ceiling. I don't feel like he's going to be as good of a prospect as Marju long-term. So let's see a few more tries out of him. But yeah, completely agree with what you have said regarding Para. So far, 52 all in base. That's some type of retribution to those who kept him. Again, that wasn't him out there last week, to use a Ricky Stewart expression, was it? It was a weird game. He got binned or HIA'd. But to do a 50-odd all in base is fantastic. So those owners can sleep easy for another night. Big Daddy
Question for you, Reese.
Yep.
Mate, you were a big Samuela Fainu truther last year. Mate, can you just take me through his score today? Because I'm pretty sure he had a try assist as well, and he's only gone for 9.
No, that was his brother, mate. There's like 3 Fainus at that club. No,
right,
brother
okay.
Brother Samuela 55.
It doesn't help when they've got 2 S Fainus on the SuperCoach scores, mate.
It's throwing many a pundit off. Don't you worry, Sam.
And just quickly, I just want to get out there on the note of the Para game. Shout out to Adam Voicey, who's been in the chat tonight, avid chatter this evening. He was messaging me about how good Dill Brown was and how tempting it was to get him in. Adam, I hope you listened to my advice and did not trade him in for this week's game. Otherwise, mate, I can't imagine your score must have been higher than 950.
Yeah, listen, I hope you listened to the advice, and I hope you also find the Netflix password that you requested.
Para Tigers made Dragon Rabbits look like Origin.
I reckon
that is a great stub, though. I'll give him that.
Mate, his password is probably like South Bondi 69 or something. Any other final thoughts on that game there, Jugas? Who Cam Wynn chimes in and says has a mo that reminds him of a certain singer from a certain band.
Yeah, I mean, the comment that probably caught my eyes was Big Daddies, comparing my slug to one to a Lachlan Lee SuperCoach value. Look, the way Big Daddy's been talking about his hog tonight, the less attractive he finds me, probably the better at this point in time. So, Big Daddy, I respect it. You just keep that hog away from me. Thank you. Mate, no real final thoughts. To be fair, I was sitting pretty comfortably in my head-to-head matchup going into that game, watching those 3 Parramatta players get on. Yeah, I was pretty off it.
Moving into the final game, the one that we all watched, definitely all of us, after AJ Brimson dropped the ball over the line, was the Dogs pounding the Titans, a game which looked like it was going to be a fading pretty early, but then Burton goes off. It gets a bit weird for the Dogs. Titans fight back, but they looked unders. It's their first game of the year. Some good signs from them, but the Dogs pumped them in the end. For the Dogs, Reid Marnie was a top scorer with 78. You had a few blokes in the 70s, but there's really no one heaps relevant at the Dogs aside from Preston, who did a 58 today, including a try. It wasn't a line break try. I believe he got shifted out to the centre, which may have killed his work rate a little bit. Is that right?
Basically Burton's gone down with the MCL, which is probably the only other somewhat relevant SuperCoach player. I know I've seen a few people have him as a pod kind of thing throughout the years. Mate, look, today Presto's work rate just went through the floor the moment he got sent out to the edge. It was a couple of missed tackles. Like that's where the Titans kind of got back into the game was through Brian Kelly on Presto, and then a quick couple of passes out to Lofican Pereira. So, I mean, look, he was thereabouts, looked likely early. One of those guys who, look, when he goes good, he'll get you 70 or 80. When he doesn't, he's probably going to get you 50, like 50, 60. Like, it's fine. You just take him and have him there as a mid-ranger. Like, I'm not looking to trade him out after that.
Listen, you probably made an extension of the Hopgood point. It's like, are there bigger problems in the side? I'd say that getting rid of Duffy and Burgess.
Sorry, Soccer?
Jacob Preston, Jugas.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so it was a 50 last week into a 58, including a try this week. But given the circumstances tonight, you'd probably write that one off. You'd hold strong. Whereas Hopgood, the situation's a lot different, right? He's playing as a middle in a side that's just getting run over the top of, and he's not offloading. And he's 50K more expensive. So I think, Preston owners hold on. Hopgood owners panic. I'll tell you what, who's not panicking, Jugas? Those that brought in Tino Fa'asuamalawi. His first game back for a year and a bit. Didn't stop the Bulldogs fans from chanting Tino's a wanker. Maybe, put a mirror up to yourselves, guys, on the hill there at Belmore. But he pumped out a ton, including a line break try. But just to read the stats out, it was 44 plus. Oh, my God, man. He did almost 70 in base power alone on return from an ACL injury. I don't think any of us have him in our sides, but Jugas, what do you reckon? How urgent is
Mate, Tino at 531, and he's just put up 100 in his first game. I will be getting on him before his first price rise. That's just a no-brainer. Some other interesting takeaways from that game, man. Like, I know there's a lot of people pretty infatuated with Keanu Kinney, including both of you two boys. How smothered he was that entire game to still manufacture a chance almost out of nothing and end up on 60 in a game where they really made a plan to shut him down really shows you against some of those teams, your Cowboys, your Eels, how destructive he could be. So although 60 isn't the most glamorous of scores, as a Keanu Kinney truther, that didn't, strain me off course at all in that regard. Some of the other takeaways from the game, I know what you're saying regarding Preston. Like, he played a bit of a different role, obviously, with the injuries, but 58 with a try, I just know he's not going to make any Preston owners feel good about Preston necessarily, especially after week one where he wasn't quite too involved in the attack. Other takeaways from that game, again, we've talked about it before, Kikau, great player. The fact that he was so destructive in that first half and still only finished with a 75 probably shows you again, he's had 2 good weeks, but I wouldn't be looking to pick up Kikau.
Well, not after he did his MCL either, right?
Yeah, look, the cat was getting kicked to that point, mate. I might have missed that point of the game. No, my cats actually haven't been hurt for if there's anyone from like Scars watching. And then besides that, look, it's a bit of a weird one when you look at the halves. Campbell 35, Brimson 36. Titans are a bit of a hot team this year. Everyone wants a piece of them. It's just trying to find the right piece of the puzzle that you're after. I guess I know you're a Brimson owner, Reese. Looking at Campbell, Brimson, and some more of those more explosive Titans players. Where are you standing on that after watching this game?
Well, it was probably just an extension of your Keanu Kinney point, 7. The Dogs are a great defensive outfit. They obviously had a plan to shut down those small blokes there today, and they were starved for room. Again, look, that Brimson scores 60 if you fucking put the ball over the line, and you're kind of happy with that. But we saw it with Saints last week, and obviously Gutho went pretty crazy, but it was generally the edges that made most of the points for Saints, including the money man Tui Pelotu. So not too worried as a Brimson owner. Actually, to be fair, I'm absolutely filthy. I was like, your Ben tunes really changed, but evidently not. Yeah, but listen, you kind of just back the vibes of that team. But geez, I don't know. Would I do Tino to Brimson? I mean, I can make it happen via Jules because I'm absolutely drowning in them. So that's one to think about. A guy that really stood out to me today from the Titans was Beau Fermor. He's playing on the left this year. Last year he was playing on the right. He's a left-handed bloke, kind of like Justin Langer.
Dual status.
Dual status, but it was 3 offloads today, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he's already kind of a guy that bases in that high 40s, low 50s. But kind of like with Payne Haas, kind of like with Greg Marju, these guys have come into the season with a directive from their coaches to say, hey, offload when you want. And he got that left mid free a couple of times. One time, Brimson kind of dropped dirty, would have gone through. Keanu Kinney's around. That's going to result in a couple of LBAs at some point this year. So massively keen on Fermo, I guess is what I'm saying there.
He looks dangerous every time he goes to the line as well. He's a weapon of the player.
Yeah, 2 years back from an ACL as well. Soccer, you're an owner of Fermo all of last year, right? Like you're generally a bit of a fan of him. He got shifted to the centres a lot, which hurt, but for the most part.
I mean, like, look, he's kind of that Dylan Lucas case. You want him when he's playing 2RF. Like, it's the same thing. Like, he goes to center wing, his work rate dropped. It's the same thing we saw with Preston today. Like, sometimes putting those second rowers to the center wing really hurts because, like, not only do you have a player who historically, like, relies on their base to generate their SuperCoach value, but then from there as well, it generally stunts the attack. Like, once kind of, Burton was off, like, look, Preston jagged his try off a lucky kick, right? Like, it was kind of like a kick that, then got, like, knocked back to him or, like, it was on the ground. He's picked it up and it's gone over the try line, right? Like, it wasn't anything special. There was no line break. There was no shift on. He didn't get any running meters associated with the try, For me, realistically, like, Fermor, as long as he's playing that 2RF position, is an absolute must-have. I think the dual value that you get from both him and Tino is huge. Like having a second rower that can go to the center wing and then having a second rower that can go up to the forward pack is an absolute must-have. I know that I've had Tino circled for like coming in to my team in round 4, no matter what. Like the one knock or concern I have on him is like I did see him reaching for. It wasn't so much his knee, but his quad this evening a couple of times. Just like getting through the work, like it looked like he might have had a bit of soreness through there. But also, like as you said, 70 in base, like he was doing bulk numbers in the heat. So, provided his name next week gets through, big work rate next week, like he'll be first pick. Like Tino almost single handedly kept them in there today.
Hell yeah.
Fermor has the upside. Like it's those are probably the only two from the Titans I'm really considering myself. I know.
What about, David Fafita came off the bench today. He's been the best 2RF and SuperCoach for 5 years.
Yeah, but like not coming off the bench. Like I'm not having Fafita coming off the bench.
No, I know that. But like that's what I'm saying is it's good because it means he won't be like fucking 800K. If he can do that for another month, that'd be good. But he got smothered as well, didn't he, by the Dogs' defense.
Yeah. Look, like I think Kenny probably had the same problem as Reece Walsh, right? Like he's obviously jagged some respectableness out of his score towards the end there, but very much like looked like they're kind of using him as a decoy again today, kind of hovering around the back of the ruck, back of the play, like sitting in between the halves on a shift, but like not actually engaging. The Dogs just did an amazing job keeping the ball away from him. Fafita, just every time he got the ball, he was kind of absolutely hammered. I saw Stephen Crichton giving it to him a few times. For me, probably
love that.
Yeah, probably not a hell of a lot. Else otherwise out of the game, really.
Mate, and David Fafita was more hammered than you last night watching Jordan Ricky play. Jordan Ricky, one of the great drink players. Just before we get into our trades and a few comments from the Gibberers, boys, the SC Cheese chimes in. How are you, Cheese? Shout out to you, mate. He is a big Cronulla Sharks fan, and he'd be as happy as a pig in shit after watching them go over the other day. Probably not as happy given he owns AFB, but I'm sure he'll be somewhat whelmed with Nico's 80-odd. Shout out to you, Cheese. Ian Compton chimes in. He asks a question. Very direct one to you, Jiggers. Do we all need a left winger in our teams?
I'm going to need more context.
Oh, me too, mate.
Yeah, I'm with all I can let you know is I'm without a Tamale and I'm without an Arthur, so I've got plenty of head noise and I've got no Jules, which I highly regret in my center wing. So I need more than a left wing and may need a fucking miracle at this point, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I believe he is probably referencing like Arthur's, Tui Pilotu.
Skelton,
Yeah. And there might be some others here actually. On that note, this is something as well. Obviously, you guys.
Saab is on the left too, right? Like Saab's sitting there on the left.
One.
I know, Race, you've been mentioning Jason Saab a little bit this weekend.
Yeah, left wingers, also known as liberal retards. There you go. There's another strike. Libtards. Sorry, Jiggers, go ahead.
I was just going to say something, and this is something I was toying with, right? Obviously, you wanted to bring in Arthur's and a
try scorers,
and a Tamale. I was almost hoping one of my 500k Marzu Skeltons RTSs, one of them would shit the bed, and I would have a good enough reason based on the break even to downgrade one and have the cash. But if you find yourself in a situation, which I'm sure many of the gibberers do, right? Let's say you've got 4 center wings, you've got your cheapies, you're without 2 of the real cash generators you want. Do you drop one of your guys who was on a decent break even, like an RTS, kind of doing what you expected, and then just suffocate that by getting both those guys in, even though they're on par for what they're doing, or do you prioritize elsewhere?
I mean,
great question. I'll just say pretty simply, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What do you reckon, Sock?
Mate, look, I'm a big believer that you set yourself up for the rest of the season in like the first 5 or 10 rounds, right? Like you got to make that cash, you got to make it quickly. You have things like, look, and we'll touch on this shortly, but Tom Trebojevic getting injured provides you an opportunity to downgrade and get some of these guys who are going to accumulate a bit more cash, like that Gutho trade that we spoke about a bit earlier, right? So for me, like, look, I'd hate to not be on these guys that are 200, 300K and then watch them go to 500, 600 and become a straight swap to Val in round 5, 6, 7, something like that, where, you're getting an 800K CT dub well underpriced because they've just underperformed to start the year. So for me, like, look, I don't see a huge upside in Roger, right? Like, I'm still not sold on the Warriors. I'm still not sold that they can put two performances together. So for me, absolutely, like I'm going, look, not only is that an Arthur's into my team, but that's 200K elsewhere to upgrade someone like someone that's 300K in the 2 RFs that you might have up to, Fermor or Tino, right? So for me, look, I'd be making that trade every day of the week, but how I play is different to how everyone else does as well.
Yeah. Another interesting one for you boys, but now that I believe we are in the trade segment, and if we're not, fuck it, I'm going to tell you anyway. Tom Duffy, I think pretty much everyone's looking to move him on. Seems to be a bit of a no-brainer consensus. Now, this is something where Jamie Humphries has all the noise, and rightly so, but just breaking down some stats, right? Katoa from the Finns is also a massive option here. If you look at Humphries, right, he's $305,400, right? Katoa's $390,700. So difference is around about $85K. Bunny's next 5 games: Sharks, Penrith, Chooks, Cows, Dogs, and then Storm. And if you actually remember at the start of the year, the Rabbitohs have the hardest strength of schedule. He's put up a 55 and a 67. Katoa has put up 52 and 86, so about an extra 15 points. Finn's next 3 games: Tigers, Broncos, and Titans, all games in Queensland.
Couldn't do it. I couldn't do either, to be honest. I couldn't do Katoa just because he's never kind of like the Ben Hunt thing. Like, he'll have a few games where and Adam Reynolds last week, even a few kind of flash in the pan games. But yeah, fundamentally, if we go to that kind of rule of like the Wires not being good with the RTS point, I don't think the Finns are going to be too much better. It's a lot of bicky to pay for a guy that you hope plays out of his skin. Humphries, mate, like we could probably do an hour on Humphries why we love him so much, but that draw is terrible. The goal kicking stabilizes his score probably about 12 to 16 a game even. Latrell Mitchell's due back, which will actually help the Bunnies fundamentally. But Latrell probably takes the kicking off him, I'd say. I think Latrell likes being in the game, getting into it with the fans, all that kind of stuff. That probably means that Humphries is capped around that 500. Not a terrible option, again. But for me personally, Duffy's obviously got to go. I'm going to use that Metcalf duel. And then the Adam Dewey duel, and then bring in Tamale that way. Probably just trade.
So who are your ins? Who are your ins this week? Who are your 3 ins looking like using the boost, I'd assume?
Oh, well, that trade for sure. Duffy for Tamale, if named. Turbo's out. Well, if he is out, sorry. I'll be straight on Dane Laurie. I'm going to limit myself to just speaking about Dane Laurie for 10 seconds so this doesn't go for too long. But, mate, you get him in. He averages 90-odd. He plays for Penrith. They do play Melbourne, obviously, but he's priced at 500. That's 370K that you could then just spread over the team for the next month. Even if it's a 2-3 week rental, I'm massively in on Dane Laurie. And then the other guy is Arthurs for sure. I'll just trade Dimitri via another duel to Arthurs, and then just keep a big eye on Tui Pelotu and Gutho for the week after. Saab's obviously also in the conversation if the Laurie thing doesn't work out. If Blaze Talangi's in there, I don't know, maybe bring in Blaze. But Saab's got to be in the conversation as well, guys. Like his break even is going to be sweet fuck all. Socko, thoughts? I've just made about 8 trades there, by the way.
We can actually use 3 boosts for some reason.
Look, for me, guys, I suppose, like, I brought in the cheapies that I wanted to bring in last week. Like, I actually used my boost last week. Don't at me. Might live to regret that one. Who knows?
They're meant to be used.
Yeah, look, they give you 5 of them, right? So, look, for me, realistically, like, I'm thinking more my round 4 trade targets, right? I want to get one of my non-playing prop or front row forwards out, and I'm going to look to Hamish Stewart, assuming that he's named. Tino must have, Bo Fermor must have, Tui Pelotu must have, and Gutho is seeming like a must have, even with that Melbourne game on the horizon for both Tui Pelotu and Gutho. I suppose from my mind, it's probably going to be those 2 Titans boys that I'm realistically thinking of this week. Happy to kind of sit Turbo for a week, but those guys, Dimitri's going nowhere in a hurry. Is probably cut. It gives me another 2 duels. So, look, my 2 trades will probably be that this week. The only other trade I could see myself making is, like, look, I'm the same as Reese. I'm not sold on the Humphreys equation, especially with Trell coming back and goal kicking potentially being taken off of him. Yes, it might unlock more points in attacking upside, but then again, it might take away, especially with those sort of last touches becoming almost the try assist there, right, rather than last touch assist. So, Volkman's probably the only cheaper half, like other cheapy half that's there. I went early on Metcalf. I'm still not sold on him. So, I'll live and die by that sort.
Well, 120 wasn't enough for you, was it?
No. He was gone last week, boys. He
got
was
lucky. He got lucky.
He was out. OUT. So to get Tamale in for me. So look, realistically, probably Tino and Bo Fermor will be my 2 trade targets this week, with a view to get the Saints boys in the following one.
Jiggers?
Look, I've pretty much got mine penciled in. I think I'm going to go Purdue straight to Arthurs. I don't really want to stay on that train anymore. Arthur's going to be a quick cash grab. I am going to get rid of Duffy. I've seen enough. I'm probably going to go straight to Humph and just upgrade there. The other one, Turbo's a weird one. Obviously, if he's under a cloud, having, 875K, almost a million boil.
Yep.
I can't really justify having that producing a 20 or 30 and then dropping a massive amount of cash. The forgotten man that we haven't spoken about, Lil Pappy. He had a huge game. His break even is going to be low. If he basically puts up 2 good numbers, yes, they have Penrith next week, but if he gets through that game, Chooks has put 38 on them or 36 on them. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, great point.
I'm a massive. People have been writing Penrith off for years, right? But they're still a great squad, but they keep losing people. Yes, it was against the Eels, but, mate, Storm are going to be deadly this year, especially after how last year unfolded. They've got a fit Munster. I think there's going to be that many breaks, whilst Pappy isn't the most hardworking, base-generating fullback, that he will have his touches on everything, as we saw game 1. So having him in there, I think is a pretty good option. So, I'm looking at Pap, maybe Saab. That's a quick cash grab. I can't really justify going Gutho, knowing I have another week of the bye. So if I am forced to make a trade this week because of Turbo, I couldn't justify having Gutho sitting on the bench for a week.
Great points, mate. What do you? We've all got Voldemort, Yongi. We've already kind of waxed lyrical about how shit Para are and how that's probably not turning around until Moses gets back. He's pumped a 20 today on top of a 90 last week, so he's still going to have a ship or a low break even going into next week, and obviously you'll ride that. But you've already mentioned Pappenhausen, we've already mentioned Gutho. Is this round maybe about, hey, if Turbo's not at 100%, which he's not, they've got a pretty tough draw for the next month. They play Canberra next week. Let me just read the rest of this out for you. Sorry, boys.
Saints the week after, I believe, isn't it?
Canberra, Para. Well, so that's actually a pretty easy game. And then Melbourne and the Sharks. And then Saints, and then Penrith. I mean, it's Turbo, obviously. But if Turbo is not at 100%, could this just be one of the great, like, hey, let's keep a mind on Gutho. Let's keep a mind on Pappenhausen. Keep in mind on Howarth, Munster, all these kind of Melbourne guys are about to go on a good run. Is it even not a terrible option if Turbo is playing to use that equity to then basically take a bet that, hey, I know Tommy's not going great. I've got a lot of these guys who are popping up here. Is this an opportunity for me to maybe jump off and keep in mind on, the runs that are coming up for Melbourne and Saints and whatnot?
It's such a tough one to think about, boys, because this is the same guy we were talking about a week ago saying, imagine not having your team. You know what I mean? You'd rather suck it up and, have that money spent and then you live with it. So, everything changes week to week. That's why we love footy. But, with that draw coming up, man, fuck. And if he's not 100%, it's hard to justify. The worst case result is you keep him, he plays 20 minutes, he puts up a 15, and you lose 100K cash. And then you're back to where you could have been the week before, minus potentially 80 points, minus 100K.
Mate, they're not risking him if he's not 100% either.
Yeah, so, no, he's getting wrapped in cotton wool for sure if it's not ready to go. I think the bigger concern is he moves to centre and only gets out 50 or 60 in the game, right?
I might just warm him up, a couple of runs down the course, so see how he pulls up.
Shout out Harry.
There's a guy named Harry. It wasn't Harry the bloke that came first this week.
Yeah, Harry was unavailable because he's at the Corso. One guy who doesn't have turbos, the Cheese. Just thought I'd shout out Cheese, friend of the show, again for the second time tonight. Good on you, Cheese. One of the great death rides. It's really come off for you this weekend. Socko, you were going to say something?
Yeah. Look, I was just going to say, touching on your thoughts still around Pappy, my only concern with those Melbourne players is it's such a point share between him, Munster, and Hughes, right? Like, they all, you'll get 2 out of 3 of them scoring well, and one of them will pull a 40. It just sort of seems to be the Melbourne way, right? And it's a bit of a roller coaster. I think that's why we don't see Pappy at these 700, 800, 900s anymore. As opposed to 2022, 2023, sort of before the leg injuries. When goal kicking, just everything, and it was Pappy season. But he's lost the goal kicking mean, he's got that. There's just a few other things that probably make me nervous around Pappy. I think you're probably better off taking the guaranteed cash, or do you look at someone like a Kalen Ponga, right? Who knew he sort of seemed to be on the up and up this year. They've gone 2 from 2. KP's obviously gone very large this weekend. I'm sure that was discussed on the Friday pod. So I sort of sit there and think, look, for me, I don't know that I can ride watching Turbo either play in the centres, not play, get injured 20 minutes into a game. Hard to play against him, especially when you do have a Gutho there who, mate, as long as he goes all right against Melbourne and doesn't, totally shit the bed and then, maybe pulls out a decent score a week or 2 after, look, he's probably going to be the same value as Turbo is anyway on the price drop. It almost equalises and you create 200K of equity out of thin air.
Yeah. Well, listen, one of my biggest moves last season, to tell a war story, was I traded out Nico Hines when he was about 1.2 mil. He ended up doing 130 that preceding weekend against the Roosters on Magic Round, and that wasn't great to watch. But then the week after, he got hurt, did 3, and then I don't think he scored over 70 the rest of the season. I traded him down to Sammy Walker. That gave me 600, 700K at the time, and then that was my foundation. Not to be confused with the foundation that my missus wears when we go out for dinner. But, that kind of move, whilst it's not great to then be kind of anti-potting the best SuperCoach player ever of all time, given all the above factors, there's a bit of merit in it, lads. I think, I'm probably not saying anything new. If Turbo's out, a lot of people are going to get rid of him. Let's be real. But even if he is playing, won't be fun to watch, but it'll be fun to watch if it does work out. A couple of final points here, lads, before we wrap off and go hit the old vegan vape. Question here comes from a couple of gibbers. First comes from Tyler. How are you, Tyler? He says, thoughts on Arthur's as a trade-in? I hate the idea of owning him and would never play him, so it would be purely for cash. Listen, we've all done things that we don't like for cash. Socko?
Mate, the list of what I have done for cash that I've liked is a lot shorter than the list of things that I haven't.
Yeah, why does my phone keep going off at weird times of the night? Yeah, Jiggis, Arthur's, like, can you stomach the fact that he's kind of shit?
Mate, to be fair, I actually kind of rate him as a player. It doesn't help that he's sexy as fuck. I don't know what he's done to his hair this year, but it's wetter.
The frosted tips.
It looks wetter this year, and I feel like, obviously, look at Nico Hines, the wetter your hair, the more points you score. To be fair,
just on the hair thing, sorry to cut you off there, mate. What do we reckon, boys? Is a little bit of like a bit of a streak, bit of a heath streak, even like a bit of a balayage thing going with Arthur's? Is it sun kissed? Is there even like a little bit of artificial grey that I see coming through from the roots there? What do we reckon?
I'm not sure about the Nathan Merritt behind it, mate, but like the hair itself looks good. Arthur's is a hot boy. He's got kind of those real thoughtful tattoos. You can tell he's probably thought about it a bit.
Yeah, artsy. Yeah, he's got a disposable camera.
Yeah. And I think regardless, I mean, even if you don't like Jesse Arthurs, if you play him, you could play someone with a better base. If he crashes over twice, like we've spoken about before, you might pocket yourself a handy 7 or 80. A little bit disheartening. You scored a hat trick and didn't hit a ton, but that's the game you play when you're starting a Jesse Arthurs. You weren't expecting base in the first place.
Yeah, Sock, could you start Arthurs next week? I mean, they play the Cowboys. He plays on the left wing.
Yeah, you're asking the bloke that started him the last 2 weeks. So I appreciate you, SC7, but mate, you're sure as hell wrong about Arthurs. That's the Bronx dominant side. That's where they're going. Look, obviously, sure, you got Shibasaki inside him, which isn't great, but mate, Reece Walsh loves hanging it to that side. Like even last night, we saw when Reece tried to get involved in the games. There he was throwing cutout balls to Arthurs, right? Like Arthurs is going to be the beneficiary. You've got Hunt, who also plays that side, who loves that cutout pass play. I think he's absolutely playable every week. But
wow,
I'm starting.
Ride or die.
Like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, mate. Like in a well-beaten side, like I think we can all agree that the Bronx were a well-beaten side last night, and he's gone for 99. Like,
he's got a hat trick, mate.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, look, if the guy's scoring hat tricks when they're getting fucking pumped, what's he going to do when he's absolutely humping the Cowboys into the core of the earth?
What, he's bloody Ken Irvine in the 40s, is he? Playing against Plumbers.
This grand final, it'll be like an all-Sydney era, era premiership. Yeah, look, no, like I love Arthurs, but to Tyler and the Gibbers, mate, absolutely nothing wrong with having a player there just to make cash and not play them. Unless they Tonne, in which case you should hang your head in fucking shame.
Speaking of Arthurs, Paddy chimes in. Got to say, Arthurs is almost hot as Socko. Wow. The only thing that sets them apart is the points that Arthur's got me this week. Socko, thoughts, comments, concerns?
I tell you what, Paddy, you let me take you to my bedroom, and I'm sure that I can notch a couple of points up myself.
Right. That's the late mail after dark. Ian Compton chimes in. He says Socko getting streaks next potty. Yeah. Hey, listen. What do we reckon, boys? Like whoever scores like the least points next week got to get a few Jesse Arthur's Heath streaks in their hair. What do we reckon?
I reckon we got to make something. Someone's coming to the pod with something fucked on their head.
Hey, listen, I'm already halfway there, but what do we think? I'll
captain Jesse Arthurs and make my player greatness.
Johnny Circum, he chimes in from the gibberish chat. He says, other than Munster, who run at 5'8"? Obviously, grammar's not Johnny's strong point there, but who else apart from Munster is looking relevant at 5'8", guys? I mean, obviously Metcalf, wasn't good enough for Sock, that 117. But who else have we got there, lads? Who else have we got? Munster.
Having again, it's through. There's a lot of options, mate. Do you know who's a real smoky there as well? Especially if you've moved off Luke Metcalf, man. Harris Tavita, as a cheapy option as a cash generation. I'm finding it hard to justify having a Metcalf and a CHT, but him sitting at 330. I mean, he's a cash cow. He's going to make money. That's a given. I actually think most weeks he's probably playable as well, especially this early in the year when your team isn't as strong.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, CHT, he averaged 50 odd in games he played 6 last year, playing 80 minutes. He's pumped out a 51 and a 74. Like even Jugas, you were talking about the Humphreys situation. I mean, he's 30K more than Humphreys. Is that an option? You get Metcalf into that second halfback spot. You've then got that Sandon Smith duel you could probably do a little bit with. I mean, Metcalf gets a 600. You can then go via Sandon, via Watson to Nickera or something. I mean, I'm thinking fucking 8 rounds ahead here, obviously. But, CHT, don't sleep on him if you're not sold on that Bunnies draw and lack of goal kicking for Humphreys. Harris Tavita's there. A guy that, we just forgot to mention there is Lockie Galvin, the next immortal. 100 today, obviously, it was against Para. They were heaps unders, but Galvin averaged 70 in the final 10 games last year in the Spoon team in his rookie season as a rookie half. He's absolutely one to keep an eye on. But apart from that,
Trindle's relevant. Like, great run. I think Cronulla are on the up and up. Like their next sort of 5 games. South Dogs. Dogs look like they're about to be injury hit by Burton and Kickout, both out with medial injuries. Yep. Raiders, Manly, Knights. 3 of those 5 are at home. Again, like that other team that sort of yet to play a home game. Sharks are a 10-point better team at home for sure. I kind of think Trindle's very much an option there, especially if he gets a goal kicking back. Like, it sort of remains to be seen what does happen with that goal kicking. But I think that combined with the fact they've got a friendly Origin draw. They play Origin 1 and 2, right? Those bye rounds probably gives you a lot of upside if you look at that pick there as well for 5'8".
Probably just the last forgotten option, boys. Adam, what is doing? 431K, dual status, goal kicker. Tigers looked better today. If you don't have him in your team, man, I've got serious thought there for myself as well at 431 and dual status, kicking goals. He's going to crash over for a few in that attack. So that's probably one that we're, less of a pod, 17% ownership. But, I mean, this time of the year, that's less crucial anyway, I think.
Yeah, AD with the kicking, he's 100K unders straight away. That kicking stabilizes his base. Even on a shit day like last weekend against the Knights, he can still do you a 40, which is playable.
He was hitting them well today as well, mate. Had it hitting them really well.
Oh, yeah. That bloody has them on magic. Sam Shembry chimes in, the best late mailman in the business. He echoes Socko's sentiment of captaining Jesse Arthur's next week with 5 tries versus the Cows. Unfortunately, Arthur's is on the left side for Bronx, and the Cows are terrible. Well, listen, the Cows are Hero scored a double.
Hey, Ronaldo still did all right on the weekend. Don't worry about that. Ronaldo still got his fill too.
Well, he definitely got his meters, didn't he? He got his meters. Shout out to Jesse Ramian. Keith McDonald chimes in the Gibberish chat. How are you, Keithy? One of the great Gibberers. He says Hosking to who? Socko, that's one for you, mate. Who are you trading Hosking to? And why is it Tino?
Probably a straight swap to Tino or Thermal, right? Like those are the 2 options there. Both the dual, like, gives you that dual upside, no brainer. Either of those 2 are fine.
Yeah, or find the money to get him to Haas through a through a horse bro or something like that. Tegan Hogg, one of the great Gibrettes, gentlemen. She says, RAD and Metcalf now both viable options at 5'8", or is it worth trading one to money? Jugas, what do you reckon?
Mate, you'll have to repeat that, sorry, mate.
AD and Metcalf now both viable options at 5'8", or is it worth trading one of those guys to Munster next week?
Look, I think it depends on your team setup. I mean, Metcalf I'd be keeping right now. We got to remember, aside from round 0 in the Vegas round, there's a reason why we all wanted him in our team for the role he's going to play. So I wouldn't be getting rid of Metcalf at this point. Munster's a good option, but look, I think at this point, at this time of the year, I'm looking at cash gen. As Socko's mentioned, like you really want to build the foundations of your team. Munster is a good option, and yes, he is going to move up in value as well. But if I had bigger fires to put out if you're in a spot with AD and also Metcalf, I personally wouldn't be changing that at the moment.
Both goal kicking. Like I just love a goal kicker.
And again, it goes down to Socko's point of too many cooks spoil the broth. Look, they absolutely spanked the Eels and he didn't put up a ton, which, again, I think he put up 90-odd. It's still a very good score. But, is that going to be sustainable against better opposition? Again, they've still got the same amount of mouths to feed. So not knocking anyone that wants to go Munster, but if you've got to do in a Metcalf, I'd be looking elsewhere at your Nicholsons, your Tamales, your Starlings or somewhere else where you're really going to reap the reward. I think it's a bit of a sideways at this time of the year anyway.
Bailey Hughes chimes in. He is the gibberer who is on Matt Timoko, who's averaging like 80 for the season so far. He says, who's a better hold out of these guys? Turbo at 50%, Walsh, Hopgood. We'll probably sell one of these 3 to CHT. Mate,
well, Hopgood's gone. Hopgood is the one that's gone, just straight away. Fuck him off.
Is he? I mean, if he's no one to say
for me, it's probably Turbo, man. I'm holding on to Walsh given the run. Hopgood is. Do you know what? If I had to get rid of Brown or Hopgood, I'm getting rid of Brown first. In a team that's not scoring points, I'm worried about the playmakers. Hopgood may still be able to grime out a 60 or a 70 here or there. Not that I ideally want him in my team, but I don't think he's an emergency out, personally.
Yeah, it just might be the kind of thing. You're right, Dylan. How many drop balls did Hopgood have today? And he missed about
Mate, he was awful today. That's the worst game I've ever seen him play. And he still put up 47, which I know is terrible. He could move to 50 with updates. I mean, look, he got 5 less than Preston. And look at the 2 different games.
Man, I think I've just put the car back in the driveway. I've taken the keys. I've put them in the bowl. We won't be going anywhere, Jermaine. Don't you worry, mate.
The car and the staying out of the drink for now, mate. It's good to hear.
Yeah, I think Turbo's your answer there, mate. Turbo, anything less than 100%. The optics aren't great for me. Tegan Hogg and Miss Jane, both a couple of gibrettes once again, guys. How good's that? Both based off the same question. Is Turbo a trade given he plays so late in the round with injury worry? Oh, fuck. That's going to be head noisy, isn't it? It's a Sunday game.
It's the last game of the calendar, so that's why I thought you've got to make a call early in the round because if you keep him in and he's ruled out day of, day before, your options.
I mean, I think the thing is, right, is if you're going to keep Turbo, you go straight to your flex, right? There's no question about that. You put him in the flex role. If he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And you name your best 17 otherwise. I think that's the advantage of having that flex role this year is, 18 scores, 17 best count, so you can kind of wear that and still have, the chance for an auto elsewhere, should you need it. But yeah, it's a tough hold for him, with that injury concern, right? That could be a game day scratching, same as Daly Cherry Evans.
Just on that point, though, for the gibrettes, if you are looking and you're really wanting to hold on to Turbo, you do have a get out of jail free card with Jason Saab in that flex spot if that's the dice you're wanting to roll.
Yeah, there's another one. If you don't like the look of Dane Laurie because you can't look at your eyes don't work or something, then Saab's another one. He's unders in terms of break even, so that's worth looking at. Voicey, we want to get an update on Turbo, mate. You live about 12 minutes away from Brookvale. Any chance we can get you down at the centre of excellence this week, mate?
Mate, look, let me get a call into my connections down there. We'll see what we can make happen.
Okay. Your connection, Daniel Vasek.
Don't you worry about who old Socky knows.
Shout out Bass, man.
Shout out Livia Caparelli. Matt chimes in. He says basically the same thing. A lot of questions about Turbo today, guys. I believe we front-footed that. Not really much else. A guy named Down Under Devil looks as though he's on the piss somewhere in Belmore. That looks fun. And then the final one here tonight will be from James Patworth. He says, Potty is brilliant. Big Daddy was on one tonight. I'm guessing that is a bit of self-referentialism from Jimmy Paps. Boys, we've got to the end of the show. What a round it's been. A round of highs and lows. Highs for a lot of us, those first couple of games. Sunday was a little bit low, but hey, the SuperCoach parabola is a funny thing. We'll come back and we'll be on top sooner rather than later. SC7 on debut. Any final closing thoughts for us?
Yeah,
here,
mate. On that, and I know there'd be some other gibberers like myself. I'm pretty green. I've listened to about 98 hours of fucking SuperCoach podcast in the lead up to this season to try and catch up to some of you boys who are very well knowledge. But be kind to yourself. I've learned that this week. I've kind of seen this week it was a bit of a bucks trip, right? So Thursday comes, you check into the hotel with the boys, you're laughing, right? Thursday, you get to the hotel, someone's got a case of beer. That was the Knights Dolphins game. Lucas with 98, third leg Greg with 85. Friday, the first night of the Bucks, you're energetic, you're so excited. That was Metcalf 100. That was Bob the Truth Boyer getting 43 in fucking base and no attacking stats. That was Connor Watson putting up 100. Saturday on the Bucks trip rolls around. You wake up, it's a 2 p.m. game. You're like, you know what? I can push through. It's a Pistol Pete 100, right? The middle game's kind of nothing. You know what's going on. Saturday night comes, it's a Walsh 9. You're going, fuck, are we out again? I can't keep pushing this. Sunday comes around. I'm watching a Hopgood, Iongi, Dill Brown sub 100 game. You're going, fuck me, I wish I booked my flight home today. Why am I still on the fucking Gold Coast? And why is my missus hasn't spoken to me in 3 days? So, yeah, look, for me, I've been more stressed this weekend than I can remember in a long time. I won't blink putting 500 on a box one favourite at Mandurah, yet I'm itching over a hit up and a tackle. So be kind to yourself, It's all a game. Yes, we want to win, but fuck, it's not worth the stress. Whether you're watching or not, whether you kick your cat or your dog or your whatever you do.
Yeah, do you have a tip for us at Mandurah?
Yeah, that's the next potty, mate.
Oh man.
So yeah, final thoughts are: look, blessed to be part of the Gibberish community, man. It's very fun, and we all have a laugh, and we take it seriously. But fuck, mate, there's bigger things in life. But doesn't mean I won't be back here next weekend doing the same shit. Let's be real.
Well said, Jugas. Sam chimes in and said it best. Bucks night is the perfect analogy. It's all going so well early, and then maybe someone throws a television off the balcony at some point, and then it kind of goes downhill from there.
Yeah, there was something else on the balcony. Shout out Corey Drew if you're watching.
But hey, at least the weekend happened. Soccer,
mate. Yeah, look, ups and downs, right? We all had probably some overreactions last week. You're going to feel exactly the same again this week. There's going to be people that you want out. There's going to be people you want in. Not every trade's the right one. Don't fall trapped to just chasing money where there's no other upside either. Look, like another awesome round of footy. Good to see some of the young guys, like some of these mamos, start producing for us. Sandon, shout out if you're running Mamo and Sandon at hooker. Look, that was kind of the beginning of a promising turn there. So, mate, look, I've loved my weekend of footy, even with a couple of poo slingers in there that I forced myself to sit through to be knowledgeable enough to join you boys on the podcast this weekend. And shout out to Keaton, who I've absolutely done.
Absolute drive-by.
Keaton's a good fella, very active gibberer. Keaton, we love you. We love you in the pundit group too, mate. You're a great fella. Sorry I had to do you this weekend, but mate, we'll see you later this year for round 2 in the 150 head-to-head, mate.
Yeah, on that note, Reece, shout out to the gibberer that I beat this week, Michael. Show us your Iongi, which I quite like the name, mate. Very clever. Jaden Campbell shat the bed. Sorry about that. We'll see after updates, mate. I can still take that L.
Yeah, shout out to P-Red. Yeah, no, I was going to say, shout out to...
Reece, how are you tracking this year after last year, mate?
Yeah, shout out to whoever the wooden spoon supplier is. Going to be giving him a call tomorrow. May as well just put in a pre-order with how this is going. Tia Edgehouse has bent me over and gone to work like a doll in the basement this week. Give me one of the great pacings all time. Look, you cop a loss, you won't cop a 200-point loss, so that's not great for the old for and against.
A bit of better on the line too. Oh yeah,
that's the Big Daddy treatment, unfortunately.
The Owen Goodenbill, cop that big time.
Guys, it's been a great show. We've had Me Gusta. We've had Netflix passwords. We've had Hog Chat. What else do you want on a Sunday night? I want Mrs. to talk to me, but that's a separate issue that I'm going through with her. If your spreadsheets aren't working, listen, just create a new one. Don't create too many, though, because the Australian Federal Police will knock on the door. But as we always say, it's always worth it if you win the 50K, guys. Much love to you all. We'll see you next time. Signing out for now. Keep it real.